Eddie Hall wasn't just built different, he trained different. A wall of muscle powered by obsession, obsessed with becoming the strongest man in the world. And he did. But greatness has a price. He pushed his body, his mind, and his health to the edge, and kept going, until his body gave out. This is the story of Eddie Hall. Eddie Hall was born in 1988 in Stoke-on-Trent, England. He wasn't what you'd picture when you think of a future strongman. As a kid, he had asthma so bad he could barely run a lap without wheezing. The constant hospital visits, the inhalers, the feeling of drowning while standing still. This was Eddie's reality. The relentless bullying followed. Kids can be cruel, especially to the weak. And Eddie was the weak kid. The kid who couldn't keep up. The kid always picked last. The kid standing on the sidelines while others played. By age 12, Eddie found an escape in swimming. In the water, his asthma mattered less. His lungs cooperated just enough to let him excel. Soon, he was competing nationally, a potential Olympic prospect. But the calm of the water wasn't enough to drown out the fire building inside him. The rage surfaced. He got kicked off the swim team for fighting, expelled from school for disciplinary issues. His potential washed away by his temper. Home wasn't a sanctuary either. His parents' relationship was crumbling. The tension at home fed his anger. His grades plummeted. His prospects dimmed. A downward spiral with no bottom in sight. Then came the day that changed everything. Age 15, Eddie walked into a gym for the first time. The smell of iron and sweat, the clang of weights, the grunts of effort. Something clicked. Here, anger had a purpose. Here, pain was productive. Here, being different was an advantage. He started training like a man possessed. While other teenagers were out partying or playing video games, Eddie was flipping tires in alleyways and deadlifting whatever scrap metal he could find. His bedroom walls became a shrine, not to pop stars or athletes, but to strongmen. Thor Bjornsson, Brian Shaw, Jidruna Savikas, men who turned their physical anomalies into advantages. His goal wasn't modest, win world's strongest man. Not someday, not eventually, soon. There was no plan B, no safety net, no fallback career. He wasn't genetically gifted like some others. His frame wasn't naturally massive. He had to work for every inch of progress. He trained in the cold, in pain, on bad days, with asthma still haunting his lungs, with injuries, with doubters. The chip on his shoulder drove him. Every no fueled him. Every dismissal, every eye roll, every be realistic Eddie. He wanted to prove something, to the world, and maybe more than anyone, to himself. Even in school, when teachers wrote him off as another dead-end kid from Stoke, Eddie wrote back in his own way, with squats, with sweat, with silence. He didn't want approval, he wanted a legacy. By his early 20s, Eddie was all in. His day revolved around training, eating, and sleeping. Nothing else mattered, no distractions, no compromises. His calorie intake was monstrous, over 12,000 a day, 6 massive meals, alarms set around the clock, force-feeding himself when his body begged to stop. Each meal a challenge: chicken, rice, steak, eggs, protein shakes so thick they barely poured. That's not just big meals, that's a full-time job. The pain was constant, not just from training, but from existing. His organs strained under his growing mass. His heart pumped harder with each pound gained. His joints protested every added plate on the bar. Sleep apnea meant he woke gasping for air. His body was sending warning signals. Eddie ignored them all. He didn't just lift weights. He built his life around them. Every decision filtered through one question: will this make me stronger? If the answer was no, it was discarded. Strongman wasn't just a sport to him. It was war. Every competition was a battle. Every training session was a mission. Every rep was life or death. The weights weren't just metal. They were enemies to be conquered. He entered local strongman competitions and quickly dominated. His lifts were raw and explosive. He wasn't the cleanest technician, but he brought unmatched intensity. While others approached the platform with focus, Eddie approached with fury. The strongman scene took notice. He was aggressive, loud, and marketable. He wasn't just strong, he was entertaining. By 2014, he'd won England's Strongest Man and started setting British records. The videos spread online. The Beast of Britain was making waves. Eddie's confidence grew alongside his lifts. He started looking at the international stage. The goal now was clear. Go global. Compete with the giants he'd idolized. Beat them at their own game. But Eddie didn't just want to compete at World's Strongest Man. He wanted to win it. And not just win it, dominate it. Leave no doubt. Make his name immortal. That kind of ambition takes more than strength. It takes obsession. And obsession always demands payment. The 500-kilogram deadlift wasn't just a strength milestone. It was borderline insane. To put it in perspective, that's heavier than a polar bear sitting on a Mini Cooper. It's the weight of 5 average men, on a single bar, lifted by one human back. Strongmen had been inching closer to this mythical number for years. 465 kilograms. 470. But no one dared go to 500. Why? Because your body can literally shut down under that kind of strain. Blood vessels burst, organs fail, consciousness fades. The central nervous system overloads like a circuit breaker tripping. But Eddie believed he could do it, and he was willing to risk everything to prove it. His training for that lift became legendary. Oxygen restriction masks to simulate high-altitude breathing, training his body to function with minimal oxygen, cold plunges to speed recovery, specialized recovery tech imported from elite military units, custom massages that left him bruised but functional, custom breathing drills, all to make sure his body wouldn't break under the pressure. He trained for months with tunnel vision. His diet ballooned beyond even his normal excess. He slept with a CPAP machine to survive sleep apnea caused by his size. His wife became more nurse than partner, monitoring his vitals, managing his recovery, picking up the pieces. He was tracking every detail: hydration, heart rate, mental state, hormone levels, recovery markers. Even his breathing patterns before lifts were choreographed and rehearsed. Nothing left to chance. And then came the night of the lift. Leeds, England. May 2016. Giants Live Deadlift Championship. Arena packed, lights down, music blaring. The bar was loaded to a weight no human had ever lifted. 500 kilograms, 1,102 pounds. Eddie walked out, his frame now a mountain of muscle, his breathing already labored from just carrying his own mass. The crowd sensed something historic, or tragic, was about to happen. The room quieted. He approached the bar with the focus of a man facing execution. Chalk on his hands. Ammonia capsules shattered under his nose. The primal scream before gripping the bar. He strapped in, set his position, and began to pull. The room went dead silent. Every vein in his face bulged to bursting. Blood vessels exploded in his eyes, turning the whites crimson. His nose began bleeding mid-lift. His face turned a dangerous purple red. The bar bent under the unholy weight. And then, it moved. Slowly, painfully, inexorably. Inch by excruciating inch. His body trembling under pressure no human had ever withstood. He reached the top, locked it out. The judges gave the signal. 500 kilograms. Official history. He let go, screamed a primal roar of triumph, and then collapsed. He was out cold, unconscious before he hit the ground. Medics rushed in, blood running from his nose, his ears. His vision, when he briefly regained consciousness, was tunneled and blurred. He later said he felt like he was dying. That wasn't just a PR. That wasn't just a world record. That was a near-death experience broadcast live to the world. But he had done the impossible. The 500-kilogram barrier was broken. Eddie Hall had taken human strength where it had never gone before. The question now, at what cost? The lift made history. It also nearly killed him. The medical aftermath was brutal. He had blackouts for days, memory lapses, crushing headaches. When the doctors finally saw him, their assessment was blunt. Do that again, and you may not wake up. His blood pressure had skyrocketed to levels that should have triggered a stroke. His resting heart rate was dangerously elevated. His sleep, already compromised, got worse. His breathing became a daily struggle. He was told his heart was under serious strain, enlarged and overworked from supporting both his massive frame and the extreme pressure spikes from his lifts. He was waking up gasping for air, struggling to walk upstairs without becoming winded. His body was breaking down in real time. Simple tasks became ordeals. Playing with his son left him exhausted. Tying his shoes was a flexibility challenge. His size, once his power, was becoming his prison. That lift gave Eddie immortality in the strongman world. His name would be spoken forever in gyms around the globe. But it also took something from him, something doctors warned he might never get back. He'd pushed past what most thought the human body was capable of, and he knew he couldn't keep it up forever. The 500-kilogram deadlift wasn't just his greatest triumph, it was the beginning of the end. Still, there was one goal left: the crown, the title, world's strongest man. Without it, the records meant nothing. Without it, he was just another strong guy who burned bright and faded fast. He had to push his breaking body one more time, one final campaign. In 2017, Eddie entered World's Strongest Man again, this time in Botswana. The African heat adding another layer of challenge to an already brutal competition. He was bigger than ever, heavier, more focused, but also more fragile. His body held together by willpower, painkillers, and the knowledge that this was his last shot. The competition was a murderer's row of strength legends: Brian Shaw, Hafthor Bjornsson, Zydrunas Savickas, giants who had dominated the sport for years. Men with more natural gifts, fewer health issues, and less mileage on their bodies. But Eddie had something they didn't: the desperation of a man with no future in the sport. This was it: win or disappear. The events played to varying strengths. The Viking press threatened to derail him. Overhead pressing wasn't his strongest event, but he held on, kept himself in contention. Then came the squat. His legs, massive columns of power, drove up weight that bent the others. He moved ahead. The vehicle pull followed, strapped to a massive truck, legs churning, face contorted. He gained ground. Event after event, he remained in the hunt. Not always winning, but never falling too far behind. Calculating, strategic. The Eddie Hall who once attacked weights with pure rage was now a tactician. Going into the final event, it was close, too close. A deadlift medley stood between him and history, his broken body versus the weights. One last battle. He approached the bar like a man possessed. His body had nothing left to give, but his mind, that dark, obsessive mind that had driven him since he was a bullied asthmatic boy, had plenty. He pulled and won. When the final scores were tallied, Eddie Hall had done it. World's Strongest Man, 2017. The first British champion since Gary Taylor in 1993. The moment was everything. Tears, collapse, the culmination of a journey that began in that bedroom covered with strongman posters. His entire life had been building to this moment, the impossible dream. Realized, and then, just weeks later, Eddie shocked the strongman world with an announcement that no one saw coming. "I'm retiring from World's Strongest Man competition." The words hit the strength world like a thunderbolt. Why walk away at his peak? Why not defend the title? Why not build a dynasty? The answer was as simple as it was terrifying: continue and die. The doctors had been explicit after extensive testing. His heart was giving out. His blood pressure remained dangerously high, even at rest. His organs were straining under his mass. The internal damage from the 500-kilogram lift had never fully healed. Continue competing at this level, and he was risking a stroke, heart attack, or organ failure. The human body isn't meant to be 400 pounds. It isn't meant to lift half a ton. Eddie had pushed the boundaries of human performance, and now the bill had come due. And there was something else, a factor that ultimately tipped the scales: his family. He had a wife who'd supported his insane quest, a young son who needed a father, not just a name in the record books, but a living, breathing dad who could play in the yard without collapsing, who could live to see graduations and weddings. The risks were no longer worth the rewards. The mountain had been climbed. The beast could rest. Eddie transitioned into a new phase of life: TV appearances, documentary features, brand deals, YouTube content creation. He began the slow process of reclaiming his health, losing weight, reducing his blood pressure, learning to eat for health rather than pure mass. His platform grew. His charisma, once limited to strongman circles, found a wider audience. He became more than an athlete. He became an entertainer, a personality, a brand. But while Eddie was rebuilding his life and health, another story was brewing. A rivalry that would pull him back into the spotlight in a way no one expected. Hafthor Bjornsson, known to millions as the Mountain from Game of Thrones, wasn't happy about Eddie's 2017 World's Strongest Man win. The Icelandic giant claimed there had been bad judging, unfair calls, that he, not Eddie, should have been crowned World's Strongest Man. What began as professional disagreement spiraled into personal animosity. The feud exploded online. Back and forth interviews, call-outs, memes, trash talk that grew increasingly bitter and personal. Each man accused the other of lies, of disrespect, of dishonor. What had once been a sporting rivalry morphed into genuine hatred. The strongman community split into factions: Team Eddie, Team Thor. The debate raged on forums, in gyms, on social media, and eventually it led to something no one could have predicted: a boxing match. The heaviest boxing match in history was announced. Two former strongmen, with a combined weight of over 700 pounds, would settle their differences in the ring, rather than on the strength platform. Eddie approached this new challenge with the same obsessive focus he'd brought to strongman. He trained like a professional boxer for over a year, rebuilt his body again, this time dropping over 70 pounds of bulk, transformed from power to speed, from pure strength to cardio and agility. His physical transformation was remarkable. The barrel-chested behemoth who could barely tie his shoes was replaced by a leaner, more functional athlete, still massive by normal standards, but a shadow of his former extreme self. Thor underwent a similar metamorphosis. Both men recognized that this wasn't just a circus sideshow. This was their legacies on the line. In March 2022, after multiple delays, the fight finally happened in Dubai. 6 rounds of technical but powerful boxing. Not the freak show many expected, but a legitimate sporting contest between two supremely dedicated athletes. Thor won by decision. Eddie, despite his incredible transformation and preparation, fell short, his first taste of defeat in years. After the bout, the two giants embraced. The feud, publicly at least, was put to rest. Respect had been earned in blood and sweat. Not in a strongman arena, but in a boxing ring. An utterly unpredictable end to one of strength sport's greatest rivalries. Eddie Hall remains one of the most divisive figures in strength sports. He's polarizing, loud, honest to the point of brashness, unapologetically aggressive. And that's part of what made him a star. He didn't just compete, he made people care. He brought emotion, drama, and raw humanity to a sport that had often been relegated to late-night ESPN screenings. But not everyone's a fan. Some critics say he exaggerated his injuries to build a more dramatic narrative. Some say he strategically retired to avoid facing Thor in the 2018 World's Strongest Man. Others claim his 500-kilogram deadlift had technical flaws that should have disqualified it. His defenders point to the medical records, the documented health issues, the undeniable achievements, the transformation of a sport's popularity during his reign. The strongman community remains split on his legacy. Is he the greatest of all time? One of many greats? A marketing phenomenon who peaked at exactly the right moment? Whatever side you're on, one thing is clear. Eddie Hall changed the sport. He brought mainstream eyes to strongman, inspired a new generation of lifters who didn't start with genetic advantages, and showed that obsession, when channeled with absolute commitment, can move mountains. Or, in his case, half a ton of iron. His 500-kilogram deadlift record stood until 2020, when Thor Bjornsson broke it by a single kilogram in his home gym during the pandemic, a lift that Eddie and others have contested due to the non-competition setting. The rivalry, it seems, never completely dies. These days, Eddie is a different man physically. He's still massive by normal standards, but now hovers around 340 pounds, 60 pounds lighter than his competition weight. He's leaner, faster, more functional, and by all medical accounts, healthier. His training continues, but with different goals: longevity, versatility, health. Not just moving weight from A to B, but moving his body efficiently through space and time. He's built a media empire. His YouTube channel boasts millions of subscribers. He's authored books, launched supplement lines, created training programs. He mentors younger strongmen, offering the hard-won wisdom of someone who's been to the mountaintop and seen the treacherous cliffs on the other side. He still talks about the dark places he had to go to lift 500 kilograms and win world's strongest man, the mental fortress he had to build, the physical punishment he had to endure. And he makes it clear, he doesn't regret a thing, but he also wouldn't do it again. And he doesn't recommend his path to others, because some goals come with a price you only realize once it's paid. Some achievements cost more than their weight in gold. They cost years of life, quality of life, health. Eddie paid that price willingly, eyes open, no complaints. But he now uses his platform to show there might be better ways, smarter approaches, paths to greatness that don't require self-destruction. His legacy isn't just in record books, it's in the changed landscape of strength sports, the increased popularity, the greater awareness of health protocols, the improved safety standards. Eddie Hall broke himself to break records, and in doing so, he may have saved others from having to make the same devil's bargain. Eddie Hall didn't just chase strength, he chased immortality. He pushed himself to the edge of death and came back with a trophy, a record, a legacy that transcends the sport. He's not just remembered for what he lifted, but for how he did it. The mindset, the sacrifice, the fire that burned from that asthmatic boy to the strongest man on earth. He went too far, and that's exactly why we remember him. In a world of careful calculation and safe choices, Eddie Hall chose the dangerous path. The path of all or nothing. The path that few dare to tread. And for one shining moment in 2017, standing atop the world's strongest man podium, it all made sense. One man, one obsession, one impossible dream. Eddie the Beast Hall.